You guys have all been really patient. Did everybody get enough to eat tonight? Because there's tons of food still over there. So feel free to get some more while we're having the program. Welcome everyone. I'm Jennifer Nolfi. I'm the director of the University of Oregon Masters in Sports Product Management. I'm thrilled to welcome you all here tonight and see how our alumni, students, and community members come join us. This event is our Soaring Together series was an idea that came about with a number of the Portland University of Oregon programs, along with industry. Michael Martintellos was an instrumental part of it, and it really is student-led, bringing together different voices to talk about BIPOC and female leaders in the industry doing innovative things as a source of inspiration, sharing, and learning from one another. So we're really pleased to have this event this year. Last year we had Garen Strong. Did anybody come to the event last year with Garen Strong? Yes, it was awesome. And I just have to call out Scoop right now because last year we had Garen Strong. We were across the hall and Scoop came up, Scoop came up and said, "Hey, I came to this program. I flew in from Ohio to see this guy speak." And I'm like, this guy flew in from Ohio. I mean, Garen's impressive, don't get me wrong. But I was like, this is amazing. And so I had him talk to one of our recruiters. I think I had him talking to Andrew, had a conversation. Lo and behold, a year later, he is a student here. He knew Garen really well. In fact, when we were down at the U of O football game, he got to go talk to some of the football players for Garen. So really great story about just kind of the cycle and how people come into our program and connect. And so really thankful to have Scoop here, and he's going to be helping us moderate the conversation tonight. I also want to recognize Ellen Schmidt-Devlin, who is our co-founder and executive director of the program. We would not have this program without her, and I am very thankful to have the opportunity to work with her and for her, as well as our SPM team. So why don't our SPM team, Tristan, Leslie, Andrew, where's Daisy, Tyler? Yeah, where's Daisy? Daisy's out there. Anyway, we have an amazing team, and we all work together to pull this together for you tonight. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to have Scoop introduce Rashad. Rashad, thank you so much for being with us here tonight. I had the opportunity to meet Rashad's company in Bend last year when I was down there for the outdoor roundtable, and they'd done a collaboration with Snow Peak, and was just so inspired by what they're doing, and then also having our students identify him as a speaker that they wanted to come be here tonight. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn over to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, and welcome to Soaring Together, a speaker series brought to you by the University of Oregon and the Sports Product Management Master's Program. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to begin with a wholehearted thank you to the various faculty, staff, and students present with us this evening, joining us on Zoom, or those of us who are at home studying, trying to get ready for midterms and finals. A special hello and continuous thank you to Miss Ellen, Mr. Roger, Miss Jennifer, and to your wonderful staff, including Miss Erica, Mr. Tristan, Mr. Tyler, Miss Leslie, Miss Angie, and Mr. Andrew. To our cross-campus leaders and students in belonging, Dr. Sarah and Dr. Fatma, thank you. To the various security staff members who helped to keep us all safe in this building, the White Stag building next door, and Northeast Portland campus, we want to say thank you to you as well. You all's efforts and daily contributions do not go unnoticed as you all work to work above and beyond to provide the cohorts of this university with an awesome experience, a once-in-a-lifetime experience, as we all seek to learn knowledge and get out in the industry and matriculate through careers and lives. We also would like to thank all of our various unnamed partners across the university. With that, good evening. My name is Keith White. All my friends call me Scoop. So whether we're old friends or potential new friends this evening, I am honored and grateful to serve as your introductory speaker this evening. I also had the distinct privilege of partnering with an amazing, intelligent student leader here within the SPM program, Ms. Artasia Watts. Let's give it up for her. I myself am a first year here at the University of Oregon Sports Product Management Program. We would like to give a public thank you to Artesia and the entire second year cohort of 2024, as they have played an integral role in welcoming the 2025 cohort to this illustrious program and sharing their experiences with us as we all seek to do what they have done in the previous cohorts, which is matriculate through the program and get out there and have an amazing career and amazing lives, and to come back and give back to the program. So thank you all for being here. The Sports Product Management Master's Program, or SPM, as we all internally call it, has a village and community that extends further than these four walls. As we continue to grow our reach and foundation of our program, healthy partnership and collaboration is needed and welcomed. Tonight, we have the great honor to be joined by a friend of the program and community leader, a husband, a father, a son, a brother, a selfless earth worker who dedicates his time and resources to uplift humanity and the world at large, one seed at a time. A community connector and remarkable chef who has taken his gifts and talents and used them to create healthy spaces for others and for himself and his family. In the latter months of 2020, as a time when we all desperately needed healthy options and spaces to gather in fellowship, Camp Yoshi was born. Camp Yoshi exists to create new means of experiencing the outdoors. Through facilitating connection with food and community in locales from the man-made world, campers find the serenity and belonging that await those who seek them in the world. Please join me in welcoming to the stage, to our safe space and our conversation, Mr. Rashad Frazier.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for that amazing introduction, Scoop.
Oh, man, you deserve it.
That was beautiful.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, the legend grows. Let's go.
You can take it with you and use it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
No, welcome, man. Welcome. Welcome to our home. Welcome to our home away from home. We spend more time here probably than even at home at this point. I know I do. It's like 8 to 8 p.m. every day. So, but we're glad to be here and we're glad to have you.
Full-time students, man.
We are full-time students. So, yeah, I see a couple of head nods. So, I'll let Ms. Artesia take it away and get us started.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today. Couple ground rules. We're going to save questions for the end. This is super relaxed, so we're going to ask questions. It'll be like a conversation, and we'll take questions at the end. So just to get us kicked off, I've actually had the pleasure of working with you on a couple creative projects, and you truly are a visionary. You have really great ideas, and you're full of knowledge and lots of plans for the future. Could you give us a little background and just give us an idea of like when did your love for the outdoors actually begin?
So I'm from North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. Grew up there. As a kid, my parents had a little lake house, super modest, like a little trailer. You know, we were really country, so the idea, my parents were like, hey, instead of watching TV, get you guys outside, enjoy nature. So since like 5 years old, man, this lake house was like fishing, camping, you know, fish fries, family functions. It pretty much was like the center of our village in a lot of ways. So I guess early on, I didn't realize it, but I guess getting those reps in early to kind of have a connection with nature, but seeing it from the lens of family and friends, that you can thrive in these spaces. The area I lived in, you know, most of the connection with outdoorism was very labor focused, not the idea of you can thrive outdoors. So it was kind of rad, and my pops probably doesn't really understand this now, but he kind of created a space for us to kind of just rethink and reshape that idea. So yeah, I would say early on, man, as a kid, just summers there, man, North Carolina, it was hot, lots of snakes, humid, but we didn't know no better.
So as a kid, did you ever think about being an entrepreneur? Was that on your bingo card? Did you have that dream?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, growing up for me, like I had a lot of different folks in our village who had, you know, they approached, you know, how to make money different ways. We had the entrepreneurs, the hustlers. I mean, we saw everything as far as folks really kind of chasing their idea of making money in their own way, their own passion. We also had a lot of friends and family who were executives at banks, VPs, designers. Like we had a lot of different examples of folks kind of winning in different realms. I will admit though, I saw most of my family and friends and extended family happiest when they were chasing their vision of passion and entrepreneurial endeavors. I'm not saying the ones who worked for, the Bank of Americas or the Panthers wasn't happy, but you can understand that they were doing that grind. And I think I kind of lean more towards seeing the ones who are like, yo, like I got my own hours, it all falls on me if something were to go wrong. So I'm not saying I gravitated towards that early on, but I kind of saw both sides of the coin.
Awesome. When you look at your foundation, family seems to be very important, just from the upbringing, and you seem to turn your passion into a lifestyle of sorts. Of now you can feed your family with it. How have you kept that focus of incorporating your family, not just your past upbringing, but using? I mean, you have a children as well now. That you bring into your organization and help you. I saw there's a beautiful video right now on YouTube, by the way, y'all. I'm gonna keep plugging Mr. Rashad, but check out the website. We'll plug that at the end. But there's a REI video on YouTube. Please go check it out. It was wonderful. I checked it out and learned a lot about this brother. But one thing I saw that you had your daughter in a farm with you, and that really touched me. I have a 6-year-old daughter who's actually at home watching. Hi, Aviel. I love you. So.
No, I appreciate that, man. I think family is everything. I mean, to give you all some backstory, so I lived in New York City for 15 years. I was a chef there for 8 of those 15 years. Before that, I was in banking, finance. That was a grind. I didn't enjoy it, but my idea back then was getting the money and, the big commissions, and eventually I kind of got burned out. The beautiful side of that, though, was I made a lot of connections, and one of the connections was a few restaurateurs. And they kind of gave me my, I guess, introduction to the food world. And I think that kind of was a godsend because it allowed me to kind of have better hours, to kind of just rethink what I want to do with my time and my personal time as well as professionally. As that's all happening, I'm having kids and I'm understanding the balance between work-life balance. And, you want to obviously chase your dreams and have the financial rewards. But the problem is you also want to make sure you can be there at home and, have a healthy environment around that. So all those things were kind of going through my mind. We moved out here about 5 years ago for my wife's shop at Nike. Knew nothing about Portland, Oregon. It was oblivious to me. But I think coming out here and kind of just seeing the natural spaces and the wonders and the slow living, I think in a lot of ways it kind of helped me not just reinvent myself, but also kind of be a better husband, a better dad. Between just being at home all day and kind of just seeing what we were doing with our downtime versus getting outside and going camping and exploring. It kind of just changed my entire mindset, man. So, before there was a Camp Yoshi, there was just downtime getting outside with the kiddos and friends and my brother. And I think that kind of sparked the idea around just, there could be a way to be in these spaces and thrive and win and just feel revived. You don't have to conquer a mountain or, do a crazy summit. Like you can still have these wins about all these, a buddy of mine calls it the romance of suffering, where you want to have these incredible accolades, but the work to get them can come at some, really intense moments. So, yeah, man, I think coming out here was kind of like a godsend in a lot of ways. It helped me kind of rethink things. And I think with my family, raising them out here with nature kind of being the backdrop has been amazing for us, man. Yeah.
I'm gonna let Ms. Artesia chime in, but real quick, what's the inspiration behind the name Camp Yoshi? Where did that come from?
So I ran a restaurant catering business in New York for 8 years. It was called Yoshi Jenkins. The whole idea around the restaurant was this intersection between the Afro-Asian diaspora. A lot of those foodways are sometimes, marginalized or so westernized you don't really know what the flavors and the profiles and the backstories. And so this whole approach kind of took me down the rabbit hole, you think about West Africa, the Caribbean, Brazil, Peru. There's a lot of overlap there. And so the flavor, the approach was all built around that idea. And so when obviously I moved out to Portland, I was still going back and forth between New York and Portland to kind of run my business. And when COVID hit, I was pretty much screwed. I had no business, no customers. My staff was all at work. And so we had this running joke around the idea of what if we just kept the name and said we're going to go camping? We put up a sign on the door saying going camping, and remarkably, it worked out. But I didn't have a plan B. So it was kind of one of those things where I think when we launched Camp Yoshi, I don't know if I was all the way in it completely, maybe 1 foot in, 1 foot out, maybe just buying time before the world kind of just recovered. But it worked out great, man. My accountant was like, yeah, we can kind of transition from this and this. You don't have to change any of your LLCs. So, yeah, sorry. you need tax advice, holler at me, you know.
On this topic of, you know, the one foot in, one foot out, what have you learned from being entrepreneur and like organizing Camp Yoshi? What have been some challenges during that time?
So I would say two things I've learned the most. Find you a mentor. Man, I can't even tell you how many mistakes you make doing it on your own, trying to figure it out on your own. There are not very many ideas that haven't already been done, in some cases perfected. Our mentors have been tremendous, whether it be advice around strategy, financial play, partnerships, living here in Portland, Oregon, not really knowing anyone. We've been able to open up some amazing doors around the brand and how we move. When I first launched the brand, I was just thinking pure camping, cooking, and good times. When we started getting more input from friends and some mentors, like, hey, this could be a play where, you're not just out there hosting these clients. You could be also an agency, more in the sense of like, you're going to the same spots, of shooting a lot of these products, doing a lot of these marketing campaigns around. What if you were the one to kind of offer that commercial lens, that access point to kind of product seed and kind of tell those stories, man. So I would say a mentor is one. Two, perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist, man, but I had to really kind of change my thinking, because sometimes you end up hindering getting a product to market. In today's world, things are changing so fast. What we were 3-4 years ago is completely different. You trying to linger and perfect things through your list usually means somebody else is doing the exact same thing better, faster. And so, one thing from Nike I always appreciate is their little slogan around fail fast. Doesn't mean you go out there and fail. It more so means you put it out there, get the feedback, and tweak and keep going. But don't sit on things, man. Like, once you kind of develop the initial idea, definitely kind of vet it, but just push on.
I love that you brought up the mentorship, because it's so important. We actually get set up with mentors when we join this program, and all of us have a mentor that we go to and talk to. Can you tell us a little bit more about keeping up with your mentor, and what advice do you have for us as far as like keeping that relationship, establishing that relationship, and like finding that person and keeping in touch with them?
So I'll say that I've gotten pretty lucky as far as folks finding us. I think when you put good things out in the world, it's kind of magnetic. Once they kind of come on board to help you out, obviously keeping their attention and keeping them engaged as far as helping you out. I try to be a little more proactive. So whatever we're planning for this year, whatever we planned for this year was planned a year ago. And that allows them to kind of really take the time to kind of vet things. And they might be slow. Most of these folks have full-time jobs. They're very busy. So to get their bandwidth, you never want to come with them like a month or two out before you want to launch something. It should be at least 6 months out minimum. We got a homie in the class right now, which are Earth Studies. The head of Earth Studies, the designer Rob, is an amazing friend, but also a mentor. I would be almost, sorry, can I curse? An asshole to be asking him for, hey, I want to design something for our downtime around camp. I need it by April. He's gonna look at me like, no, that doesn't work that way. So the moral of the story more is just get ahead of your ideas, and the mentors usually are best served that way. I would also say this: if you can, an advisory board or a team. Some of your mentors might just have one lens or one approach towards giving you advice. If you can kind of have a variety of folks with intel and insight, it's super helpful. As far as tapping into mentors, LinkedIn's no joke, bro. I'll send a cold call in a heartbeat around like, hey, I rock with what you're doing. I'm a big fan. If they respond, cool. If they don't, it is what it is. But I think the hustle and being an entrepreneur is just saying that I need to have some of these questions answered. I'm a big fan of this guy's aesthetic or his approach to some of his accolades. And usually there'll be respectful and respond.
As you look back at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey that started during COVID when it had limited resources, is there anything that you would have done differently, if at all? If you can go back to day one.
I think I would have probably spent less money on the initial idea. I think when you're doing something from scratch, you're trying to make it be amazing and perfect, you end up putting a lot of energy into things that, when it comes to consumer, they're not seeing all that. We put up a lot of, so full transparency, when my restaurant business or catering business pretty much shut down, I had a nice little payout from a PPP loan. It was a nice little just, bag of money to kind of do something with. And I was like, okay, what can I do next? Open another restaurant. Wait, this camping thing could be really, really, really successful. And I probably should have spent maybe half of it versus all of it on a new concept. I feel like I'm still paying for this day with my accountant, but the reality is you don't realize how simple sometimes things can be versus making it so like, propped up and perfect.
Yeah, on that same topic too, like thinking back to 2020 and, all the hardships specifically in the Black community that were going on, Camp Yoshi was founded during a time when there was a lot of racial injustice happening, a lot of riots, it was just the Black community, it was a lot heightened. Did you ever have any hesitations around starting Camp Yoshi, or was there any type of like fears or anything, or like what was your thoughts behind that?
So when we initially launched the idea of Camp Yoshi, it wasn't supposed to be focused, the social mission wasn't going to be focused on this BIPOC. It was a pure capitalistic approach towards trekking adventure company. Prior to even getting into the Camp Yoshi space, my brother and I would do these trips to nowhere, where he would ship his car out to Utah or Arizona, and we would go out there together and just have like some brother time. In doing that, we met a lot of friends and homies and allies supporting that cause. They gave us intel on like secret locations for campsites. They gave us intel on where to go and where not to go. So we had like this little 2-year head start around this amazing community of folks who helped us kind of get outside. And I felt like, there's a business here where you can take folks off grid, show them a good time, and it's being done sustainably and respectfully. I think when COVID happened, on top of the real pandemic around just injustices around just marginalized communities, it was kind of like, I don't know if I was angry, but I think I wanted to create a safe space for folks to look like me, to have somewhere they can just recharge. And I think I wouldn't change that any other way. I think at the time it was a perfect antidote. I think in doing that, though, that ringing that bell, I didn't realize how many folks from different backgrounds and different like ethnic groups also needed the same thing we had going. And so we had a lot of folks reaching out like, hey, this looks amazing. Like I want to go out and just kind of just digital detox and recharge. So that summer was crazy, man. I remember we actually launched Camp Yoshi. Condé Nast picked the article up in January 2021. They launched it, and that same newsletter, they put in there the attack on the Capitol. And so we got all this hate mail and emails from folks like, oh shit, my information's out there. Like, they know my name. Rashad, you ever come to New Mexico? There's no space for you here. We aren't wanted. Like, what you're doing is just so bad. And so for that kind of freaked me out in the beginning. But the reality is, I mean, maybe I'm a little crazy, But there was a little anxiety. I mean, the reality is I'm a pure entrepreneur. So for me, it's all making money, right? But I think also I've evolved into a person where it's like, you want to make money, you want to have fun, but you also want to do good. And I think sometimes when we approach problems with more of a nonprofit model, I'm not saying they're not impactful and helpful, but I think that brands, companies, for-profit companies can have way more impact if they really wanted to still make a bottom line, but also do goodwill.
I think sometimes the idea of getting out in nature, specifically hiking or camping, it could be a little overwhelming, or some people could find some restrictions mentally or even physically of going out there. Any advice you can just give to like a novice beginner, someone who wants to get out in nature, obviously knows that it's therapeutic, but doesn't know where to start or intimidated, don't know who to start with?
So I would say just go as close as possible to the city. I mean, there's amazing state parks around Oregon. Hell, even in New York State, like there's some amazing options where you drive an hour, you're there. When it comes to gear, I mean, REI has a program you can rent full camp kits, turnkey. I found that when we were doing our market research to launch Camp Yoshi, because we were focusing on like 30 to 45-year-old busy professionals in major cities like New York, LA, Miami. Like, what is preventing them from coming out to these spaces? They have money, like they're doing well, but the anxiety, the gear, where do I go? Is it safe? And so our model was kind of built around answering that exact same question. So if you're just trying to do it on your own, I say start close to home. There are gear options out there where you can get stuff and rent it. But I think, when it comes to getting outside and getting after it, oftentimes, we kind of limit ourselves in terms of what we read. I mean, there's a lot of good information out there nowadays as far as kind of demystifying that story, that myth. I would say in 3 years, the market of who's out in these spaces is changing dramatically. It's not fixed by no means, but I mean, what we saw 3 years ago versus today, it is impressive at how quickly folks' confidence is getting more people outside.
Outside of accessibility to the outdoors, where do you see like some gaps in the outdoor industry itself, and where can Camp Yoshi kind of fill some of those?
Well, I think the diversity gap is still the most apparent one, but I think a more widespread issue is, no matter what you want to resolve and what you want to offer to consumers who want to get outside, I think the biggest issue is more so access to these spaces is changing dramatically. Something as simple as a trail. I was speaking earlier to a few folks about camping on BLM land, which is basically the federal land that's open to anyone. It's dispersed camping. Some amazing sites out there. If someone's being a douche and disrespecting the trails, they can legally shut down those trails. Saying that, I'd love to see more brands maybe put energy and maybe educating folks on not just buying their product, but also how to be good stewards of these spaces. Like how cool would it be to go see the Grand Canyon? You got to take like a 6-hour course or something. It's free, but it helps you kind of understand the flora, the fauna, how to be a good steward. I mean, the reality is, if we can deputize more folks to be environmentalists in their own way, I think that could be a huge win. I mean, how many people have been to Moab before? Moab, Utah? Okay. It's an amazing place, right? You probably noticed in Moab, there are a lot of side-by-sides, right? And they're awesome, they're fun, but side-by-sides are so torquey and so powerful, they're basically causing a lot of erosion on the trails. So that one trail that might have been this wide is now twice that size, which is eating into the microbiology there. These areas are very fragile. And so I think it'd be better for a lot of these brands who sell these amazing items, whether it be, auto, gear, the Nikes, the Adidas Terrex. How cool would it be to have more information to kind of require folks in some of these, offices and manage these spaces to kind of empower them more to kind of just educate folks on how to navigate these spaces. There's no Camp Yoshi if there's no access to the trail. But you sell me that same Gore-Tex jacket to go to like Mount Rainier, what Mount Rainier was closed, would kill a whole industry. So I sometimes feel like we're playing catch up as Camp Yoshi to kind of see these spaces that you talk to some of these old timers. You should have been here 40 years ago, man. It was amazing. And I was like, well, damn, dog. Like that's not really making me feel any better about the situation. But but you hear what it was before, and they get so like not cynical, but just it's just kind of sad to hear them talk about it in a way, whereas as if it'll never be that way again. So as much as we're offering these luxury adventures, if you will, I think we're playing catch up, but also trying to protect the magic of adventure in camp because it might not be here. Which just sounds so negative.
No, you're keeping it real. We appreciate the honesty. We spend a lot of time in our program talking about sustainability and in the world, in business. And a lot of us have lately been talking about the balance of running a business and having a bottom line, creating profit, having shareholders to answer to possibly, but then also wanting to be sustainable, be good, be moral. Where do you kind of find that balance, and any advice you have on obviously wanting to do good, but also like you said earlier, you run a business, you do want to make some profit and some money?
Well, I think the word you're missing from that beautiful question is greed. I think greed's an issue of why the bottom line in doing good and protecting these spaces isn't really balanced. They want to squeeze as much as they can out of profit. Look, I have a number in my head of what I need to have to survive, sustain, and win. That number, I think, is very practical. I think it's fair. I think if I were to show up in the places I go to doing hundreds of trips, that is not a sustainable model. These places are very fragile. I mean, in some cases, the connections we built in these areas, I think that handshake is, hey, we're going to give you the information, but respect this place as well. And so it's kind of like the duality of working together. You got to kind of, play both sides. But I mean, it's tough, man. I mean, the reality is, people got to eat, people got to win, people got to buy homes, people got to pay for student debt, people got to go to college. I get all that, but I think as an entrepreneur, you should probably have a clear idea in your head of how you want to grow your business and what number is enough for you. I think too often we hear people talking crazy about, I want to be this, I want to buy this. Like, bro, that's not even practical. So I don't know. That's a tough question. I feel like working in the outdoor world, you should naturally kind of be hyper aware of sustainability and protecting these spaces. And so when it comes to making money, not really in it for the money. You know, I'm in it for just the joy of just having a good time and doing what I want to do. I mean, I know what it feels to be in that cubicle, man, looking out that window in New York City. You're taking that train every day. It is not the vibe. And so I don't ever want to go back to that. So for me, my cup's full.
Speaking of community, speaking of just like you say, eating, Black Futures Farm. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that is incorporated into your business? Again, watch the video and you'll see what we're talking about. But if you just expound on Black Futures Farm and how that idea became a part of your business.
So I connected with them through the REI film you saw when we first touched base. And there's this thing happening globally, and I would say specifically in the U.S., where the reclaiming land and natural spaces for people of color is a beautiful thing to watch. I think when you process all the environmentally injustice, all the problems a lot of our communities face, I think taking our outcomes in our own hands is what they represent. And whether you're farming, whether you're doing Camp Yoshi, whether you're whatever your approach is to the outdoors, I think it's this whole idea around sovereignty, like having your own space to kind of create something on your own and knowing where it came from. But yeah, the reclaiming of natural spaces, man, is a beautiful thing, man. It's happening everywhere. Those guys, I met them for that film. We hit it off immediately. To see them operating a little 2-acre plot in Portland, Oregon is beautiful. You know, I feel like they're doing the same thing I'm doing, but just through growing and gardening and growing their own produce. So I don't know, man. I feel like we're all trying just to create more things that feel more natural.
So, talking about Black Futures Farm, you mentioned earlier Camp Yoshi. The name came from your career as a chef, being in New York. How important is food and having healthy food options infused into the fabric of Camp Yoshi?
So food is everything. I don't think of ourselves as a venture company. We're a venture host. You think about new user groups getting outdoors. What's the easiest way to kind of disarm them but also make them feel comfortable? Get them an amazing meal. It's so funny. I feel like sometimes we put so much, and this is the perfectionist in me, we create so much energy around our itineraries and our run of show sheets, if you will. Folks weren't reading them. And I'm like, you all don't know where we're going or what we're eating? And then most folks will say, well, actually, that's not true. I know what we're eating. But as far as where we're going, I'll leave that up to the experts, if you will. But yeah, man, I think it's I think when I created Camp Yoshi, the idea was around like, how do I go to market as soon as possible? I don't have time to be trying to get 20 years of outdoor adventure experience. What all do I need to kind of just get going? And I think the food angle was kind of like, oh shit, this is a nice little angle. Like, instead of focusing on just like accomplishing some crazy feat, what if I made you this amazing meal in the middle of nowhere? And that magic is like, oh, I can thrive in these spaces. And so I think the food helps people kind of know that, hey man, you don't have to come out here and suffer. You know, you can eat as good out here as you would at a restaurant, you know?
I think food could be therapy. I think it's awesome that you use food to connect people and to heal them and create healing spaces. It's Black History Month, so we would be remiss to not touch on this time, this moment in time, and we appreciate you being present with us to share your time, your history, your present. What does the term Black excellence look like for you in the present and as we move into the future?
Great question. Black excellence, man. I don't know. It's more like a North Star for greatness. I think everyone has their own specific details of what it looks like, but I think for me, it's more like just being at your best, no matter what field you're in. I think growing up, my mom and dad were very big on like specific jobs that represented like excellence and success. I think now it's more about finding your passion and just being a best person possible, practicing that passion. And honestly, I feel like too, it's kind of a counter to maybe all the stereotypes that kind of exist around just our community not being able to kind of be in certain spaces or navigate certain spaces. I mean, heck, good examples with even Camp Yoshi, man. Like I do feel like there's more pressure on me, and this is more internal, to make sure I go out into these spaces and don't fuck it up. Like, you know, I go out there, have a good time, everyone gets back safe, but there's also just the idea that We want to leave it better than we found it, but also be exemplary around just what the possibilities are around being outside. So like right now, all of our trips to Utah, we have a PhD come out and speak about desert biology. And my thinking around that is, how dope would it be to have a new camper come out here for the first time, feel empowered to kind of understand the science behind all this stuff, and then next thing you know, their excellence is showing up in ways you didn't even imagine. So I don't know, it's there's different approaches towards it, but I think ultimately it's just trying to make sure folks have the best tools possible to kind of be great, and when they are great at it, they can kind of be an example of what that could be for anyone else, inspirational.
So yeah, this will be our last question before we open it up to the audience for questions. But could you give us advice from your experience being an entrepreneur as we are entering the industry with our careers? Some of us may want to be entrepreneurs. Some of us may want to be involved in the outdoor industry. And then part two to that question, how can we be stewards and how can we get involved in Camp Yoshi?
All right, so being an entrepreneur, it ain't for everybody. Have a plan. And I don't mean have a plan for the business to be successful. Like, you should have a business plan, obviously, but have a plan to support yourself while the business is struggling. It was a little bit easier for me to kind of jump into CY because we had some other things going on, but be prepared to maybe go months without any money coming in. Be prepared to kind of figure out how to make sure that you pay your staff. I mean, the last thing you want to do is have a team that's amazing and talented, and they get poached by other folks because you just can't take care of them. I would also say, my dad told me, as far as like being an entrepreneur, don't have a plan B. Your plan A is the actual idea you want to do. If you kind of put it like one foot in, one foot out, it might not ever see what it should be. If that makes any sense. What was the other question? Sorry.
How can we get involved with Camp Yoshi?
Yes. All right. So we have trips online right now. As far as anything you want to book, our whole year is pretty much available for our big trips. Starting in April on Earth Day, we'll roll out our local adventures here in Portland. A lot of free hikes, a lot of like cool little classes and workshops. We're doing a lot more pop-up dinners here locally. We grew the business so quickly as far as on a global perspective in terms of thinking bigger and thinking more like, oh, we got to go over all over the country or travel here. We kind of neglected doing things here in our own backyard. And so we're doing a lot more things local. So we got a hike club coming up, tie-dyeing classes. We got a dope farm out in Vibrant Valley Farm out in Sauvie Island, doing a lot of things with the natural dyes around marigold and indigo. We'll be doing some t-shirt dyeing around that. But the pop-up dinners will be the main thing. So we have a Han Oak dinner on April 22nd. And this will all be on the website. They're called field trips. You will find out about them then. But yeah, man, just spread the gospel. Follow us on Instagram, Camp Yoshi, camp.yoshi. And just spread the word.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to open it up to the floor. If anyone has any questions, we're still here to have a conversation. We're going to start right back here, and then I'll come with the sweat. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Rashad.
First off, I want to say thank you for your time. We really appreciate being able to hear your story and just more about like how you grew your business. My question is sort of, you mentioned like being a lot of the hesitations for people in the early stages were not having the gear or like the knowledge and stuff like that. And I know that you guys provide that for them now. Can you talk about some of your partners that also help you achieve those and how you came across like getting those partnerships and stuff?
So my favorite partner to this day is Snow Peak. If you've ever been to their store on 23rd Street, it's pretty freaking dope. But Japanese camping brand based here in the U.S. As far as their U.S. location. When we first launched Camp Yoshi, we didn't have a real plan around how we were gonna like incorporate the brand partnerships. But we pitched them this idea around doing this beta test, and I think it was such a bad idea. They said, you know what, let's just try it and see what happens. So they ended up product seeding that entire picture you're seeing right here on the display. So their whole thing is around Takibi time, slow living, all those vibes. And I think what we realized working with them was they have this huge warehouse of just, experience gear you can kind of use for shoots and stuff. And so they were really helpful to kind of support that. I'm not saying you guys give them a call and tell them what I told you as far as getting stuff from them. But what I'm trying to tell you is that there are a lot of brands with just stuff that they use for demos. And I think if you give them a shot about what you want to do with it for a weekend with the friends or hanging out and you'll document it, you'll be surprised how many folks say yes. Because the reality is it costs money to shoot all this stuff. And if it's already being used and it's available, I don't see them saying no. So Snow Peak's a big one. Nemo's a really good one as well, that of Vermont. We use them more so for our sleep kits. One big thing I'll tell you guys is that right now, the industry is missing out on an opportunity to kind of have more gear that accommodates more sizes and shapes, specifically when it comes to camping gear. I mean, I love a good sleeping bag, but a mummy bag is uncomfortable for me. I like to roll over, I like to move around. And so for our campers, man, Nemo had the best system to make sure we had more just, democratically built, setups and whatnot. And also to keep people warm, man. So as far as getting access to gear, REI is a good brand. They have the, you got to pay for it, but they have the turnkey kits. But there are some options out there, man.
How you doing? I really appreciate you coming out, like Mason said, sharing your story as well. One of my biggest questions, and especially just wanting to get to know it a little bit more, with being a person of color in this space and stuff like that, it seems very intimidating to get into. So I kind of wanted to know, like, what was your thought process, especially when deciding to start up, and then making it feel more inclusive for people of color to get into going out into the nature? Because growing up, I'm from the South as well, but it's not really something that's too much brought to us. It's kind of hard to get into.
So I feel you on that point, man. Like for me growing up down south, the idea of going beyond the safe spaces I had my parents, it was never a thought. I think being an adult now operating Camp Yoshi, there's so much strength in numbers. I mean, we're mobbing around in spots where you see the signage, the political signage, and you don't feel wanted or desired here. But usually we're in a, convoy of 4 or 5 vehicles. It's 16 of us. You kind of feel, like a force fields up, man. So I would say for anyone trying to get into the space, no matter what your background is, groups, man. If you can find folks with the same feelings, if not folks who just want to go out there with you, do it with them. Don't do it by yourself.
So you talked about your partnerships with like gear. When did your apparel idea stem from, and was it more so of like you saw a gap within the gear because it was taken care of, and then you found the need for the apparel? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so we never thought of ourselves as ever getting in the gear world. I think the feedback we got from campers, which is as real as it gets, was, I got your pack list. I have all the gear here for the excursions and for the evening, but I don't feel comfortable. I'm cold, I'm wet, like all these little things they were just complaining about, which was great feedback as far as like, damn, they can't really go into an REI and get like a full kit for how they want to get outside with us. And so I think from our observation was, all right, I don't have the money or the business plan to really create a full-on apparel inside. What is the simplest thing I can create where there's a few SKUs and it answers a specific crop problem? And so for us, warmth was the biggest issue. And so we thought, all right, when you go from excursions and adventures doing that the day, how are you transitioning from that to campfire time? And so you want to change your socks, you want to change your pants. And so for us, this Polar Tech fleece suit we created with Mason's crew was a brilliant idea, because it was kind of one of those things where it's like, damn, whether I'm in the city or back out with Camp Yoshi, it's functional. And so, I think more solutions where you can create products that are more like it's good enough for the street and the urban centers, but also for outdoors, I see is where things are kind of going. And I think as we do more collaborations, we're looking for brand partners to help us create that. Because most of our campers, they might get out with us once a year or on their own time, maybe one time. And so the gear has to be able to be useful beyond that. And that's a sustainability question as well. So does that answer your question?
Any other questions?
This is awesome. Thank you. I love the idea of your kids getting to talk about you someday, the way that you're talking about your parents right now too. It's really cool. I am curious a little bit about. Sorry to diverge a little bit, but like the leadership structure and what your kind of organization looks like. If it's a hierarchical, how many people do you have in your team? Kind of where's your most spend, I guess, like your overhead, or your where are you putting the most?
So as far as the team, it's 3 of us as far as founders. Myself, I'm pretty much operational and creative for all the trips. So the experience side of it is pretty much all my lens. All of our strategies of brands is my wife, Keita. She's at Target. That's her full-time job as far as every day. So it's kind of a natural overlap. Plus, partnering with your wife is not a bad idea as far as tax purposes. And then my brother Ron is our lawyer. He handles all of our contracts, all of our collaborations, liability. I mean, the way we try to describe it is if I'm the kite in the sky, Ron's holding the string, and my wife is the wind. So that's kind of like the breakdown. But in terms of our staff, it's 3 of us full time annually, and then it balloons to 9 people in the spring, summer. The seasonality of our business is where it gets really crazy as far as staff. But I would say right now, our biggest spend at this point in time is marketing. From earlier we were talking about that, but trying to promote our upcoming trips for this year, and then it'll table off significantly, it'll plateau. Because the whole other goal is to kind of put butts in seats, like give people to book. Once that's pretty much done, the next biggest spend is just our trips. You know, our whole model was built around the idea of owning nothing and being very lean. Talking to other trekking companies, they had too much overhead, man. And so most of their money they would make from the season would get eaten up by just storage, staff, gear, the auto partnerships, which is my biggest cost in year 1, got resolved with the brand partners with like Jeep and Rivian. And so there's some savvy ways to approach things where you can kind of remove those things from your P&Ls. But it took time. It took time to kind of get some buy-in and get some, I use the word respect, but I guess get they saw the value in what we were offering. And it's like, hey, if you can't give me money, can you give me the gear I need to kind of offset these costs?
Yeah, thank you.
So you'd mentioned when you first started and you had your idea of building it out, but you wanted to get it to market quickly. And then you'd mentioned I want to stay warm as a customer. That was a challenge you probably didn't foresee as big when you were back in, year 1. So now here you are down the road. What is next on the horizon for you, and the next obstacle you're trying to overcome that you probably didn't see in year 1 because you weren't thinking about it, but now it's definitely in front of you to keep that next horizon within your grasp?
So if you peruse our website, most of our trips are kind of pricey. That was intentional. I wanted to have more quality over quantity. I didn't want to be out in these spaces doing hundreds of trips like some other of our peers. And so the idea was like, how do we do 15 trips a year? That's my sweet spot, 15, and then we'll offset that with some other things. Now the goal is to kind of do a volume play to get more butts and seats. And so we had to figure out a model ASAP to reduce the price point dramatically. And that's something that came up working with AutoCamp. Anybody know what AutoCamp is? So AutoCamp is kind of a glamping luxury boutique campsite. They're in adjacency to national parks. They're near major cities, but they give you a really beautiful camp experience, but with the creature comforts of an Airstream that's been modernized and renovated. And so for us, they removed one of our biggest tasks, which is camp gear, and having folks there to handle all that and manage it and clean it and take care of it. And so for us, they have like 12 locations around the country. We can easily put our model into what they're already doing and use that as our entry point to kind of build pipeline for future campers. But it took us a while to find that model and see how it was going to look, because the reality is I didn't want to create more camping trips if we're going to compete with our current camping structure. It's just kind of a weird thing. You'll end up just eating into your money and losing customers. But I think working with brands where they offer, built out modern campsites that have all the bells and whistles, but the price point and their costs allow us to kind of come in there and do what we do still, is an easy way for us to kind of grow in a different way.
I have a question. What has been your favorite experience that you've planned or went on thus far, and what made it your favorite?
My favorite experience to date, it's Oregon, man. Oregon has the most topographies that you can ever imagine. There's almost 7 here, I believe. I don't know the actual number, but there's enough here to kind of really see a lot. Rainforest, high desert, big mountains. It's all here. This location on the picture is in the Albert Desert. It is one of the darkest places in the country. It's next to an area called the Hawaii. For my rafting folks, I'm pretty sure they know about that location. But there's a lot of hidden gems here, man. So if you ever want to kind of really get after it, you don't have to go very far. And so we've gone to some cool places, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface of Oregon, the PNW as a whole. But Oregon's just magical.
Any more questions? Do we have any questions online? Can we check that?
Always have a question, Mr. Rashad. I'm not gonna lie. So your business, is it only domestic here in the U.S. or is it something that you want to scale out globally?
So we're abroad. Yeah, we're domestic and abroad. So Morocco this year, Iceland, Baja, Tanzania. I'm trying to cook up a Brazil experience. I'm just trying to work through what the route is. I mean, honestly, I think we're at this point, we're just trying to find more partners on the ground in different locations to kind of roll out more locations as far as experiences. But yeah, we're everywhere, man. I mean, I would say one of the biggest things I didn't realize in year one was I was so focused on domestic, focus on your own backyard. There's a lot of things you can see here. I didn't realize how that opened up other places I didn't even imagine. So the fact we're going to Morocco this year for 9 days is insane, but I don't know. We might go to, I don't know where we're going next, but yeah, it's pretty exciting.
I have a question over here. In our program, it's really interesting to see the diversity of the cohort. So I'm class of 24, and a lot of us are like footwear and like apparel, but it's been interesting to see class of 25 is very outdoor heavy. And I know right now they're in the process of looking for internships. Do you guys do internships? How does one get a chance to work at Camp Yoshi or even just anywhere in the outdoor spaces? We hear a lot about like getting internships at Nike and all these other places, but we don't really see the outdoor companies, and how do we get in those spaces for work?
So we do offer internships. They typically start in the spring. It could be anything from the digital designer side, as far as all of our graphics and visuals. We're trying to get into more gear. I got this idea of having like this Camp Yoshi field kit we just hand to the camper when they arrive. How that looks, what is it packaged in, how do we accommodate different sizes. So a lot of questions need to be answered by just some extra talent, and I think that'd be great to have you guys possibly just throw your name into the hat for that. But usually we do like 2 interns a year, and what'll happen is it'll be available late April. Is if we get wrong. We're a small team, man, so we move kind of slow. It's like right now we kind of push the priority around getting the trips sold, but yeah, so great question.
This is kind of a 2-part question, I guess, but what do you look for in the characteristics of like the community you're looking to build? And then what are the characteristics you're looking for in the destinations you're looking to host?
So I'll answer the last question first. The destinations, I don't want to see any people around. So usually that means we're going pretty far. But oftentimes what we'll do is try to find out what are the spots that are kind of hard to get to. And then depending on the BLM manager out there, kind of give them a call about, hey, what's going on out here? What are the trails like? Like, how does it really feel like an adventure? I mean, the offering we're trying to basically provide is anyone can get outside, but can you get outside and go far and feel like you're thriving? So that's always typically the approach. In certain places like Montana and Colorado, everything is so privatized. We're usually looking for private landowners that have enough acreage to kind of feel like you're by yourself, you know? Because you think about things like, light pollution, you want to see the stars. There's a lot of campfires around, a lot of, city lights that can kind of ruin that. You think about things in terms of feeling safe. We're going on these excursions, sometimes leaving gear behind. I don't want somebody walking up on our stuff and taking it. So that answers the first question. As far as character for community, first, they got to have a love for the outdoors and kind of appreciate them the way we appreciate them. I think a willingness to learn how we're doing things and how we approach is kind of a little different. We're more of an adventure host. We're not trying to scale every single mountain or range. It's more about just trying to really get out in these spaces and thrive. And so I think being able to really kind of have good people skills and kind of just be able to connect with the campers and the clients. A lot of folks coming out here from these major cities and they really want to have a good time, but they'll be asking a lot of questions. They'll probably have some anxiety, but having the patience to be able to kind of give them the reassurance that it's all good. Most of our campers are traveling solo. So by the time they get there, they're like, oh shit, I'm here with a bunch of strangers. What's about to happen? Is someone weird? You can usually break the ice pretty quickly, but the wrong staff or saying the wrong thing can go left quickly. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
As we matriculate the mic around to the next individual, I'll just piggyback off from my brother's question. You've done a great job with Camp Yoshi of creating pride within the Black and the brown community and promoting that, but you've also built this bridge with other communities and allowing everyone to take part. Could you just talk about Camp Yoshi's inclusiveness and how everyone's welcome to join?
So that's a big part of what we do, man. It's obviously the goal is to kind of create images of seeing more people of color outside, but within that, having lived out here in Portland, Oregon, my wife was at Nike for a while. We realized that recruitment and retention of all folks was kind of a problem. You come out to these spaces, you got a great job, but they don't really onboard you for Oregon. They don't really onboard you for these natural spaces. And so Nike, even the Asterix, they've been great partners for the past few years as far as getting their design teams out with us. We're going to year 3. Last 2 years, we've hosted over 30 campers from the design side of the U.S., all different backgrounds from different teams. And those groups were as diverse as this room. And it was cool to see kids coming in from Korea, the kid from New Orleans, all kind of hanging out. And they might be on similar projects as far as design teams, but they don't really talk. They don't really communicate. And so now we're around the campfire having a conversation. They're crying because oh my God, I didn't realize that you were so cool. Or it just kind of demystifies what it means to be in a space where, yes, we're here to work and make money, but we're also, people's humanity kind of comes back, man. So we want to do more of that. That's kind of our corporate offering as far as partnerships for the retreats. The feedback for those programs have been amazing. And I think, the sky's the limit as far as kind of offering that. It's kind of like a cool offsite you've always wanted to do with your team, but the guy planning it was terrible, Sorry. So if you guys get jobs in the future, man, think about us as far as outings. I wish I could play out a video. I have a dope video of us in. So backstory, if you've ever been to Crater Lake, good for you. If you haven't been to Crater Lake, go to Crater Lake. It's amazing. Amazing. But we took a group down there this past fall, and it was remarkable. Any more questions? I feel like I'm talking a lot. You guys good?
Yes.
Again, thank you. This has been incredible. Do you do any private tours? Do you take groups out separately? That's my first question. The second question, do you go on all the tours with the groups that go out?
So to your first question, yes, we do a lot of private groups. That's probably one of our favorite trips because usually those groups kind of come up with their own energy and they can kind of hit the ground running immediately. As far as all the trips in year 1 and 2, yes. Since last year, no. I'll be divorced, and but no, not like it used to be. In year 1, we did 8 trips. In year 2, we did 15. Last year, we did 30 activations, and so I keep being told I need to repeat, find another me. It's hard. So now, so I mentioned earlier doing a a trip offering where the price point's a little bit less. We're trying to play with this virtual model where you can come in, experience Camp Yoshi, but there's more of what's the word, an avatar there via some of our iPads, kind of showing you how to build a campfire, how to make this, I don't know, braised short rib over the fire, how to put up your tent. But it allows us to kind of get back to our roots, which were how do you educate folks on how to camp and do it the right way? Because after a while, if you're hosting them as far as giving them a cocktail or doing everything for them, all the hand holding, you're not really learning a lot. You're more so just having a good time. So, but yeah, I need to find another me ASAP.
I think it's hello. There you go. I think it's interesting how listening to your history and experience, you know, you're providing a very like unique service, which is very different when you think about product, but at the same time very similar too. So as you think about Camp Yoshi and like the service and experience you're offering, like what kind of goes through your head in terms of being there and like providing that service through your lens versus like working on the business and the strategy and how you scale that?
Well, I'll say this: the last year was the first year we actually had an operational manual, like to really show our staff how this should look and how it should be tight. My biggest fear about not being on the trips where we couldn't keep the same consistent level of service going, and that is a huge, huge, huge red flag. And so I found it the time to kind of figure out, okay, what are the main core components of this? So in terms of being able to kind of, I guess to your question, keep the same vibe consistent, it took probably 2 years of figuring out what the vibe was, and then using that to kind of just reverse engineer what we wanted to look like. I mean, when we hire staff or bring people on, they don't know what they're, I mean, they see the images online. They don't really know the grind and the level of expectation. I mean, we run the business like a restaurant. Like the idea is when they come in, you know, they get to camp, they're receiving a cocktail or a mocktail. That is based on their dietary restrictions they already told us months back. As far as their camp kit, we have all their sizing, it's in their tent, it's almost very turnkey. And so these little moments, these wow factors of surprise and delights, it kind of keeps the hype going and going, you know? We have this saying on our trips called morale is high, or how to keep morale is high. Because once that kind of starts to taper off, you can kind of see the energy kind of fade. And so keeping the programming and the excitement going is really important, you know? But it's tough, man. I mean, the reality is we thought about doing some cool ideas around like a micro hotel experience in the city where it's like a brick and mortar location, like a Camp Yoshi cafe, where you can kind of get all the elements of what we do, but in the city, if you will. But how does that translate into this whole product or experience where, you know, you're coming in buying a latte or buying a shirt and it feels very on brand? So we got some ideas, man, but to your point, I think it starts making sure the trips are just tight and dialed. Yeah.
Awesome. So if we don't have any more questions, we're just going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much on the behalf of the University of Oregon. Another quick plug, visit campyoshi.com, please, to learn more information about these wonderful trips. And how can the students and us get in contact with you?
Info@campyoshi.com is our email. I'm on LinkedIn. Send us a DM. We respond to everything. Yeah, don't be shy. Say what's up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just want to present you with this gift bag from our program to you. We want to thank you for your time. Mr. Rashad is going to actually leave us shortly. He might hang around for maybe a couple minutes if you have a lingering question, but he's actually going to get on a flight with his family, and we want to wish you safe travels with you and your wife. Hopefully it's a good resting and relaxing week. We'll be in touch with you. We appreciate your time, brother. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank y'all, man. Appreciate y'all. Happy Black History Month. Happy New Year. Love y'all. Good night.
Please eat the food, too.